Hey guys, in today's video, I'll be walking you through every single button that you need to know inside of clay.com to make your life that tiny little bit easier so that you really feel like at home when you enter the clay sheets. Simply put, in this video, I'll go through this quick checklist of all the most commonly used buttons inside of clay, which yes, is quite boring to record, but let's be real, hopefully we'll save a few lives as I go along through this video. So first of all, inside of clay, you need to get a clay account, right? This is just common sense, and as soon as you get a clay account, your UX would look something like this. On the right side of the screen, you will have a button that says new. All you need to do is click on that and you will have two options. The first option is to create a folder, but let's be real, it's pointless to create a folder if you don't have any clay tables, so don't worry about creating a folder just yet. And instead, just click on workbook because this will create a workbook. Now, think about a workbook like a spreadsheet. Now, if in a normal spreadsheet, the sections are called tabs, then inside of clay, it's similar. It's called a table. So each tab inside of clay will be referred to as a table going forward. So what we've done up to this point is created a workbook, and now it's time to name this workbook, which basically all you need to do is in the top left-hand corner where it says untitled workbook, just click on that, click on rename workbook, and call it whatever you want. So like test workbook for video, right? As soon as we're done with that, we can tick this off, and now it's time to create table. So the way we'll create a table is on the left side of the panel over here. You should see that it says tables, blank table. So just click on blank table and voila, you have a table. Now, bonus points if you name this table straight away. So in this case, I'm going to click on rename and then just name it table 1 company list, for example, right? The reason that we do this is because clay is super complicated as it is. We don't want to not label stuff, which will, further complicate this later down the line when we build this out. Next up, we'll be adding a column. So simply put, if we want to add some data, just like you would do inside of Google Sheets or Excel, you can click on add column and then select URL, let's say, if you're going to input a website. So for instance, let's say www.b2b-boosted.com. No, actually, screw that. Let's do not clay.com, which is obviously the URL of my course. So we can then rename the column header as well. So just click on that, click on rename column and say website, right? So that's how we would add a column. And next up, we'll talk about how you can add an enrichment. And also I'm going to spice this up a tiny bit for you so you can, hopefully just copy and paste this success for yourself as well. So in the top right-hand corner, you will see the button that says actions. I'm sure clay is not really, 100% committed to keeping the buttons exactly the same, but it will be the button in the top right corner. Before it used to say enrichments, now it's called actions. Simply put, every enrichment, as I mentioned before, is just a step, is just an action that you take inside of clay. So for this over here, you just need to know what to type in. And for the time being, you probably don't really know all the enrichments. So I'll just suggest one, which will cover probably over 30 or 50% of your use cases. In this case, it will be ChatGPT. So all you need to do is just type in ChatGPT and select the right enrichment. In this case, I'm going to select this one, which is generating text. And once again, in this case, you can just describe what you want to do. So in this case, you want to say something like, I want to find text from a testimonial on this website. Help me grab the name of the person that left the testimonial and output just the name and nothing else, right? So this is where, so for context, where it says generate here, you can just speak to it like a normal person and you just say, hey, I want this specific thing from the website and all I want is just this one thing, right? On that basis, when you click on generate, it will help you create a prompt completely from scratch. And in this case, it even tells you the AI model that you need to use. So in other words, we'll talk about AI models in other videos, but for context, it just helped me generate this prompt. It helped me to choose the right model to use for this, in which case it suggests Clayagent Helium, and it creates this long prompt for me, which basically saves me the manual hassle of doing this manually. Right now, all I'm going to do is save and run one row in this view. This will enable me to see how effective this prompt is before then thinking of, replicating this prompt across a big list of contacts. So far, we covered ChatGPT, and next, let's have a look at what output this comes up with. So you can see right now, it says Sajan Sharma, and let's see. Oh, of course, we forgot to include the website. So we've got to say, here is the website to grab a testimonial from, and we'll copy and paste the website, save and run the row. And now after running this prompt, you could see it outputted Luke James, and it talks about how it reviewed a bunch of testimonials. And these are all the people that genuinely left a testimonial for this course. So simply put, this is absolutely correct. And you can see that it's just outputted the name of the person. For that reason, since we use this prompt already, and I absolutely love this prompt, I don't want to copy and paste it every single time. All I need to do is in the top right-hand corner, click on templates and click on save as template. And this will just be name of person that left a testimonial, right? And the reason we're doing this is so that we can save the prompt. And next time, when we click on actions in ChatGPT and generate text, we can click on templates, browse templates, and there it is. Name of a person that left a testimonial. We can click on that, and voila, it copies and pastes the entire prompt without us needing to basically go through this pain and misery of setting this prompt out completely from scratch. So this is how you browse templates. This is how you save templates. And for context, if you want to use a template that someone else created, you can just type in templates here, and it should come up with templates somewhere. So let's have a look. I think it has to be under specific enrichment. So if you want to type in ChatGPT, generate text, templates, browse templates, you will see all the public templates that are available in the library, which is it's not that many. I think it's like 50 or so, but it's helpful because sometimes you want to determine if a company is B2B or B2C. For that, there is definitely a prompt inside of here. So essentially what we covered up to this point is quite self-explanatory. And one button that I cannot stress enough to you is whenever you try a prompt, you always want to click on save and don't run, and then just click on play to run one row at a time. The reason we do this is so that we don't waste a bunch of credits running 20 rows with the wrong prompt, right? So that's important as well. Now, next up, let's talk about importing data. The way that you will import data is by clicking on actions and then sources, and then import from CSV. Now, if you don't see that as an option, you can just type in CSV here, and it should come up with CSV somewhere, but most of the time it will be in the sources section under import from CSV, and you can then drag and drop a file with a CSV thing inside, and it will just basically add it just like a spreadsheet over here. Hopefully that's clear up to this point, so let's move on. The other thing to keep in mind is, let's say we have the website over here mentioned twice, we will burn more credits, as you can see right now, because I forgot to cancel this enrichment to run, right? And this is costing me clay credits, which is basically costing me money. If I want to avoid spending money on duplicate data, there are two ways to avoid this. The first way is I can click on the column and click on dedupe. This will deduplicate the data to make sure that it does not, that if there are duplicates within this column, they will be removed. So deduplicate, delete two duplicate rows, confirm and delete. Now, if this happens again now, and I input more data, and you can see it runs again, this is pretty crap because every time I'll need to then go here and click on deduplicate, right? Which is quite depressing. So to avoid doing this, and by the way, I'm spending tons of clay credits, so make sure to watch this video to the end to support me here. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, you have this auto dedupe button. If you click on that, and if you click on enable automatic deduplication on the website, and then save changes, you will not allow any more data to come in that's duplicated. So you can see automatically I try to add a new row with duplicate data, it just cancels it and deletes it altogether. So if you want to avoid duplicate data, just simply put, all you need to do is just click on this button in the bottom right-hand corner, and just make sure to remember me when you do that next time. So that's that. Next up, we'll talk about how to find companies. Once again, I've done tons of videos before about different types of ways to find company data, but inside of Clay specifically, if you are looking for companies that are pretty active on LinkedIn, the way to go about finding these types of companies is by clicking on Add at the bottom of your screen, and then over here you should see Find Companies. On the right-hand side, if it costed Clay credits, it will tell you that, and if it required a more expensive Clay plan, it will also mention that as well. For the time being, at the time of me recording it, it's completely free, and it's one of the only places to get free company data. So I encourage you to try this out because it will get you probably like 30% of the companies that you need in your total addressable market. So it's quite a nice place to go about finding your company data. So essentially, let's just recap this. You clicked on Add at the bottom of the screen. You clicked on Find Companies. Here you're able to filter for specific industries. So let's say software. No, actually, let's do something more fun. Let's do like garden equipment. Yeah, something like that. You can filter based on locations. I'm not going to do that because it's a bit of an overkill for this type of demo video. And then when you're happy with it, you can click on continue. So let's just see that load. And you can see a bunch of companies that will be populated inside of this table. So to start with, it's just 50 companies. If you want to add more, you can then click on the plus button here, and you can select the number of companies. So you can then say like 25,000 companies and then preview, and then you can add that to that table. So simply put, you can have like as many companies as you want. I think it's 25,000 companies. And all I did here was clicked on preview, and then, so let's do this again quickly. I clicked on that, preview companies, and then on the right-hand side here, just click on add to current table, right? So this is how we go about finding companies, completely free, doesn't cost you any credits, quite a nice way to get started. Next up, I'll show you how to find people. So the way we'll go about finding people is quite straightforward. So all we need to do is click on actions and then find people. We can just type that in. Should be somewhere here. Will be a bit of a letdown if it's not really. So let's have a look. Now, on the right of the screen here, if we click on actions and we click on sources, right now, if you click on find people at these companies, you will be able to find people at those companies. Worth noting, at the same time, I can cover this later on, but you could also click on sources and then click on find jobs at these companies, and it will give you every single LinkedIn job that's posted by these companies right now. Quite a cool way to do that. But for the time being, let's not get carried away. We'll just click on find people at these companies. And over here, you're able to find all the job filter for job titles and all of the other filters. Once again, I assume you know how to use filters, because if not, this could be quite a long course for you. But essentially, simply put, all you would do is just filter for the job titles, the seniorities, and the kind of like years of experience, the locations, like all of this is just super basic stuff. And then just click on continue. And typically you'll import, I believe it's just 50 to start with, but you can choose how many based on the limits over here on the bottom left-hand corner, which you can see for yourself. So let's just see this load up. It takes a couple of seconds to do. And voila, it just creates a new view for you. And I don't know how Bill Gates turned out to be the founder of a gardening business. Don't ask me how, but to be fair, he does own Breakthrough Energy, which is probably something to do with, powering gardening businesses or something of that sort. Now, bearing in mind, right now we have three tables. We have this like testimonial table, right? So we'll rename this to testimonial list, like testimonial table, and then click on save. We have this companies table, so we need to probably call it table 2 company table. And then we need to probably name the third table, because otherwise this will get really, really messy and it will be a super, super long day for us today, right? So in this case, I'll just say table 3, find people. So up to this point, let's just recap, because I think what we've done is just a bit short of revolutionary here. We created a workbook. We managed to understand how to use ChatGPT prompting. We managed to browse templates, save templates, import data, deduplicate it, find companies, find people. And now let's try to find Bill Gates's email. So all we need to do is go into the find people table, click on actions in the top right corner, and we can click on work email. Over here, we can just select person work email, and this will give us the quick setup here. So basically, in these cases, we just need to input the full name of the person, which in this case, it's already mapped out. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here. But essentially, those are the input fields that we need to map in order for every enrichment to run. So let's say if this was blank right now, we would need to find the full name of the person and type in full name here to find their full name and map it, so that then this enrichment runs fine. Then if we click on full configuration, we will see this being an email waterfall. For various reasons right now, because this is just like a high-level overview, I'm going to use this to show you how to find Bill Gates' email or Simon Sinek's email, but realistically, you should not be using the waterfall in a lot of cases, simply because it just costs so many clay credits. And yes, you can build your own waterfall, but don't rely on 10 different providers, which you don't have access to. Once again, this will be covered later on. Don't worry about it for now, but for the time being, all we need to do is click on save and don't run, because otherwise, we're going to risk 20,000 credits, which is ridiculous. This is like my mortgage payments, which, by the way, I don't have a mortgage just yet. So, but I'm sure you get the idea. So essentially, all we need to do here is find the work email. The way we're going to do that is we can either just click play here and it will just run this enrichment, or we can click play next to the people's names on the left-hand side, and it will trigger the running of the entire row. The way that an email waterfall works, oh, come on, Simon Sinek's email was found. The way the email waterfall works is that it basically goes to provider 1. If provider 1 does not have a valid email found, it goes to provider 2, then provider 3, provider 4, and so on. Hence, it's a waterfall. So it just goes from one provider to another until it finds a valid email. And then the valid email shows up on the very right-hand side over here where it says work email, right? So in this, up to this point, we already found the working email. You can see on the right-hand side here. If you want to rename this column to final found email, yes, or something like that, right? Just so that you remember it later down the line, you can rename the columns as well. And then next up, let's talk about finding using formula. Once again, though, there are a ton of videos where I'll dive into all of this in a lot more detail. But let's imagine for a second we have the full name here, Bill Gates, and we don't have the first name. Let's just imagine we don't have the first name, right? For that, we will just click on Add Column, Formula, and we will say something like, grab the first word from, and then we need to refer to a column. So in this case, we'll use the backslash, like every single time inside of Clay. We'll use the backslash to refer to a specific column. So we'll say, grab the first name from, and we'll say full name. So then we can click on Generate Formula. And voila, Bill should be over here. Output is correct. And we can then use this as whatever, like real first name, for example. Now, the reason that I'm doing it right now like this is just to show you that there is this thing called formula. The whole idea of formula is when a lot of the time when you have existing data, but you want to break it down or simplify it or whatever, you can just do that in order to do this. Now, another thing to keep in mind, remember we're inside of a people table. But let's say if we wanted to refer to Bill's company, this was another table. This was in table 2. So how do we go about referring to all of the data from the company table? There are two options. Typically, when we pass this data through, you will see on the left-hand side that it says company table data. So we just need to click on run. And then we can just either run individually all of this like that, or we can click on run all rows that haven't run or have errors. But in this case, if we run this, the entire table here, then it may trigger the rest of these enrichments to run, right? So simply put, let's just focus on one thing at a time. To start with, we can see the company table data here, so we can see the company description. When we can see the company description over here, we just need to click on add as a column, and we can say company description. And this can be later used for personalizing the opening line based on the company description, for example. Or something like company LinkedIn URL. We can then type in company LinkedIn URL and create a column. So what we're doing here is really just structuring this data so we have all the data in this fancy Excel looking sheet so that we can then carry out all the rest of the enrichments and so on, right? Now, let's move on. What if we didn't have this data? Because sometimes it happens that the data is not transferred from another table. You may need to look up the data. Now, the way that you would look up the data, so let's say we are in table 2 now, and we want to look up, we're in table 3 now, and we want to look up the data from table 2. The way we'll do it now is clicking on Actions, look up multiple rows, gosh, such a hard spelling, especially at it's literally 10 in the morning. I should be nice and caffeinated. Don't know what's happening. But anyways, look up multiple rows in other table. Once again, doesn't cost you any Clay credits. You might as well abuse this enrichment. Click on it. Table to search. This just basically asks you when you're looking up the data, what table do you want to look the data up from? So in this case, I'll say table 2, company table. That's where I want to look up for, look out for the data from. The target column will have the LinkedIn, the domain, which will contain. So simply put, what we're doing here is we're saying we want to look up the domain column inside of this table, and for that to contain the same as the company domain here, right? And then we can click on save and don't run. And then we can just do it with 2 people, and hopefully it will show us that it passes all the data from table 2. Wow, I'm good at this, right? Anyways, so over here, records, now you can access all the data from table 2. And this is a common thing that newbies worry about, like, oh, hey, how do I look up data from another table? Like, pretty straightforward, not rocket science just yet. So formula we touched on, lookup data we touched on. Let's talk about how you could have pushed data from table 1 into table 2 as well. Once again, I understand that this is completely absurd and you may be thinking like, oh, this is way too complicated or whatever. But my point in this video is not to tell you, oh, go do this and that and that. It's just to say, hey, there are 30 buttons. This is more or less the buttons. Just be aware that that's the way to do it. And in case, reference this video later down the line when you're stuck on moving data from one table to another. So in this case, let's imagine for a second that we just want to move all of this data from table 2 to table 3. The way we'll do that is by clicking on actions, and it's called write to other table. If you type that incorrectly, it should definitely appear here. Once again, it doesn't cost you any clay credits. You'll click on write to other table. We'll select the table to write to. In this case, that's why labeling the columns is labeling everything inside of clay is useful, because you can select the table that you want to write the data to. Click on select table, and then we can just select the individual rows that we want to pass onto the from table 2 to table 3. So let's say we just want to pass the company URL, and we want to just create a new column with the company URL inside of table 2. We can then click on save and run 10 rows. And over here, you should see when it says like this has been passed or whatever, you should give you like a green message here saying that it's been done. That's when the data is transferred. So when it says created records in table 3, we're now going to go into table 3. Gosh, there is a lot of data in here. So yeah, we just go here. These are the contacts that were sent across from the previous table, all of these ones, right? I believe, yeah, and this is the data that has been transferred from the other table. So simply put, whenever you're stuck, all you basically need to do is just write to other table, select what data you want to map, and at the top here, it's going to be the data that you want to pass from this table to the other table. Right, so like this is the column that you want to pass from table 2, and this is the column that you want to map it to in table 3, right? So up to this point, I think we covered quite a few cool things. Next up, we'll talk about how to normalize company names. This is pretty straightforward if you were to do it like for free, but there are further complications as well with this. So let's say if these are all the company names, all we can do is click on actions and type in normalize. I think it's with American spelling as well, so it's with a Z-E to be precise for any of those, for any of you that are particularly interested in spelling. So yeah, click on normalize the domain. Actually, not a domain, normalize company name. Over here, normalize company name by clay formatters, doesn't cost any credits. Click on that. And for this, you need to find the company name. So in this case, we just refer to the name column. And then we want to normalize the case as well. So let's say if it's capital Salesforce becomes just Salesforce. Continue to add fields, and then we can click on normalize name toggle so that we can see instantly what the normalized company name will be. Save and run 10 rows. Once again, doesn't cost us any clay credits, as I mentioned probably a million times by now, but what we're doing with this enrichment is just normalizing the name of the company. So let's see, like for instance, Health and Box Private Limited, which was fully in capitals before, is now looking a bit better. So simply put, this is like the best way to normalize the company names. Still, a lot of the time, they will still look a bit too, like you're not going to reach out to a company and say, hey, I noticed Tager Building and Construction Materials Trading, blah, 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 blah. Right? Like you're not going to casually drop that into an email, but it does help you to normalize it to start with, and then you can normalize it further using ChatGPT, but that's for another video. Now we can tick that off. And then another thing that you will come across inside of Clay is you often want to just scroll across and remember, let's say, like the headcount of the company. So in this case, you can just click on the column and click on pin. And this way, when you scroll across, you can just see the actual column. And then if you get tired of looking at it, you can click on it again and then unpin it. Once again, tiny little thing, probably doesn't matter for the time being, but it's quite important. You can also rerun the enrichment. So if we go into table 1, oh, how are there no rows? This is disgraceful. Yeah, but if this was fully complete, if we click on the play button, it will just rerun the enrichment. That's another thing to keep in mind. So let's just tick that off. Now, worth noting as well, so let's just imagine a couple of things here. Let me just add a bit of data. Unlockclay.com. So let's imagine for a second that we have two rows over here. What we're going to try is over here, if it doesn't grab a testimonial already, we always have the option to run all rows that haven't run or have errors. I very much recommend for you to do this when you want to run all of the rows, but you just want to run, you don't want to rerun the rows that have already been successfully run. So in this case, just click on run column and then run all rows that haven't run or have errors. And this will basically run the entire table, but it wouldn't rerun the rows that already ran successfully with enrichment. Once again, not sure how articulate I am after recording this video for 25 minutes or so, but here we are. Now, if you want to rerun the whole row, I think I talked about this already. If you want to rerun the whole row, all you need to do is on the left-hand side, click on the play button, or if you want to do it for the entire table, you can just select all of them and then click on actions and then force run all of those if you're an absolute maniac that wants to spend a bunch of credits. One thing to keep in mind as well, on top of that, in the top left-hand corner, you have different views. So the way we use this is what I recommend is you just click on default view, click on duplicate view, and you can have two separate views. You can have one for, if you double click on this, you can call this like your email view. And then if you click on the toggle again and duplicate it again, you can then have your LinkedIn outreach view. So for the LinkedIn outreach view, you can then click on filters, and then LinkedIn profile is not empty. So here you will have every single person who has a LinkedIn profile over here. So then you can reach out to them via LinkedIn. And then for the other view, which was the email view, we can just click on filters and create a filter whereby it's something like email is not empty. In which case we've just got Bill Gates and Simon Sinek to hang out with and chat to them via emails. So those views are important. So make sure you get familiarized with those views. And all it is just duplicating the view and then adding a filter and then using this toggle to switch from one view to another. Moving on, rerun the whole row. I think we talked about running all rows. We talked about if you want to add a lead to a campaign, this is quite straightforward, but it really depends on what tool you're using. So in actions, you can just type in smart lead. Hashtag not sponsored, technically by Smart Lead, but still Smart Lead, add lead to campaign. So you can do that. And then you just click on that. And as always, you just need to choose the campaign that you're selecting. And once again, I've got a bunch of videos on how to do that. But it's just to let you know that it is possible. So you can add leads to campaigns automatically. That's the whole perks of using Clay. And then you can also do that. Let's say if you want to add a lead to HeyReach, you just select that. And you can just do that really quickly as well. In a nutshell, this is more or less how you do all of this. Then final thing, super advanced, but fine, we'll cover it now. When you click on actions, you can type in webhook, I believe, or maybe not. No, you can't type in webhooks. But if you do want to import data into a table using webhooks, all you need to do is click on add, and then webhook, and then click on webhook. And then simply put, it will just give you this funny looking URL. And if you look confused right now and you're like, what the hell is webhooks? Don't worry about it. We'll cover it later on. But simply put, you will just copy and paste this webhook to whatever platform you're getting the data from. So let's say if you're getting it from Appify with job data, you will copy and paste this into Appify. And then it will transfer all the data from the other platform into this webhook. And it will automatically run the entire table. Once again, this is just to give you like a high level overview of everything. And then for any sort of bespoke and custom integrations between Clay and other platforms, you could use the HTTP API feature. So you can click on HTTP API, you can click on Browse Templates, and then look at all the public templates of all the different tools that may not have a native integration with Clay. So they don't have an existing enrichment inside of Clay, but they do have this HTTP API, which is just like a side door entrance into Clay. So you can still connect all of these tools that you can see over here, but it does take quite a bit of effort, in which case I recommend just reaching out to the customer support of any of these tools that you want to connect via HTTP API, just asking them like, hey, how the hell do I do this? And most of the time they'll help you out and give you, like a step-by-step of how to do this. So once again, only use HTTP APIs if you're super, super techie, if the word API or webhook does not scare you. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this video. The whole point of this video has been to just walk you through all the most important buttons inside of clay.com. Hopefully I've been able to do that. I'm completely out of breath after recording this for about half an hour. So I'll go give it a bit of a rest, and then I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.